Good evening, and welcome to the October 14th Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. Before we begin, I will read the protocol for, actually I'm going to read the protocol after we do our invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, so bear with me for a second. Pastor Gene Fields, you are going to be doing our invocation tonight, and after that, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance read by Councilman Chris Watts. Everybody rise, please.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, and Father, it was beautiful in weather, but Father, that's not what made it beautiful. It's beautiful because it's a gift from you, Father, and everything you give is out of your love. So Father, we thank you for this. Father, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to come in this setting and to be able to come into your presence. Father, I'm thankful for our city council and all of those that have prepared for tonight, Father. I thank you that there are people in our community that take a leadership role, that have a passion for our community. Father, by the very definition of the word invocation, it's the asking of someone for help. So Father, I ask for that for us tonight, for our community. Father, I ask for your blessing upon our community. I ask for your protection over our community. Father, in this room, I ask for your wisdom. Father, I ask that we do all things out of your love. Father, we just thank you that we live in a community that we can freely pray, and that, Father, that we can be very open and that we have freedom. Father, I pray right now for all of our first responders and, Father, all of those that are protecting us tonight. I thank you that they have dedicated their time and, Father, literally their lives to protect our community. Again, Father, we love you. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My apologies, just a little bit of out of practice for the beginning. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Councilman Watts, for the Pledge of Allegiance. So before we begin tonight, I would like to go over the protocol for tonight's work session. I do not have this memorized, so bear with me as I read through the items. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action will be taken on items discussed tonight on Monday, October 18th. Which is our normal legislative session. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates to discuss your business. There are a few protocol items that we need to be made aware of before we start the meeting, so please listen as there will not be any, hopefully will not be any misunderstandings about how we're going to conduct the meeting tonight. You're asked to please keep your comments and presentation on a professional level, dealing with facts that are important for this governing body to make their decision. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive warning from the chair if you deviate from this requirement. A second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the chamber and the premises for the evening. Only one person will be talking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers. Speak from the audience, cheer, carry on conversation with others in the audience, or disrupt the order of this meeting in any way. I'll remind you that we are only required to accept public comment during the required public hearings. We are not required to accept public comment on other items before this council. We accept public comment on all items because it enables us to make better decisions, but we will maintain order. As the chair of this meeting, at any time during the meeting, I am prepared to stop public comment on any agenda item if I believe that the general good of the meeting will not benefit from actions being taken by a member or members of the audience. If you have a pager, some of you still have pagers, I don't know why, a cell phone or other electronic device, I ask that you either power them off or put them in silent mode. Agenda items will be handled as follows. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then the person representing the agenda item or the applicant will make his or her presentation first, and that will be the only opportunity for you to present this information. The mayor and members of council will possibly ask you questions of the applicant or seek additional information. After that, the committee chair will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There's a maximum time limit of 20 minutes for those who speak in favor or in opposition to the agenda item. The applicant's presentation is included in this time allotment. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. Ask that you please fill out a speaker sign-in card that is over by the clerk's desk before you come to speak. Prior to that, make sure you give the card to the city clerk or the city manager over there. At the podium, you state your name and address for the record. Please state whether you're in favor or against the particular item, and then proceed with your comments. If you are under the age of 18, please do not give your address. Each person has one opportunity to comment on each agenda item. No reappearances if you think of something later that you forgot to say initially. Sorry about that. Meeting is not a question and answer format, even though it sometimes devolves into that. It is not a debate format, even though sometimes it evolves into that, but a format that gives you the opportunity to make public comment on your respective agenda item. Please address your comments to the chair, that would be me, not to members of the audience or to the applicant or city staff. If your information is repetitive of information presented previously during the meeting or any other meetings on this matter, there is no need to present the same information again. If your information is repetitive, you'll be reminded, then requested that you move on to any new information that you're prepared to present. Our policy requires that printed information used for review be submitted in advance to the city clerk's office to be included in each council member's work packet. Therefore, please do not pass out or distribute additional information to the council. This also includes the citizens' comment period. Even though I said it's not a question and answer period, I will ask now if anybody has any questions regarding the protocol. Okay. Hearing none, that is the fine print of our meeting, as we say. We will move on to our agenda, and the first item on our agenda is announcements and presentations, and we do have a presentation tonight, and that is a proclamation for the representatives of the Douglas County Retired Educators Association declaring that Sunday, November 7th, 2021 is Retired Educators Day in the city of Douglasville. And I will read that proclamation forthwith. Declaring, as I said a moment ago, declaring November 7th, 2021 as Retired Educators Day. Whereas the Georgia Retired Educators Association was founded in 1958 to unite retired educators in Georgia for fellowship, support, and educational community service, and to improve benefits for all retired educators through cooperation with local, state, and national organizations. And whereas there are more than 123,000 retired educators in Georgia, 29,000 of whom are members of the Georgia Retired Educators Association. And whereas the retired educators of Georgia donate thousands of hours of volunteer service and make invaluable contributions to the welfare of the Douglasville community. Whereas it is most appropriate that a day be designated for citizens to express their appreciation for the contributions that retired educators have made and continue to make for the Douglasville community. And now, therefore, I, Terry Miller, Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Douglasville, do hereby proclaim November 7th, 2021 as Retired Educators Day, and further extend appreciation to all retired educators in the city of Douglasville for their impact on our citizens. So proclaim this the 14th day of October, 2021. And we have representatives of the retired educators present today, and that would be John and Elaine Stone. Are you prepared to come down and give us some comments? And then we'll come out and get a picture. Okay. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah. John or Elaine, would you guys like to say anything first before we get the pictures? Yeah. Yeah. You have to state your name and address for the record.
I'll tell you. My name is John Stone. I'm a retired educator, Douglas County School System, 31 years in education. I just want to thank the city and the council for declaring our special day, November the 7th. It's statewide, the governor's declared it, and y'all declared it. We're going to have the school system declare it, and the county will declare it. So, but we're proud to be here. Over here is our president of our unit this year, Donald Slate. He's a retired educator locally here and from Douglas County. My wife, Elaine, is retired from the school system, and your city councilman over here, Chris Watts, is retired educator. Been around here for a while. As I said, the retired educators put a lot of stuff back into the local community by volunteers, both in the school and in the community. The retired educators that live in Douglas County bring in annually $38 million to the county. So a good retirement system that we do have, and we appreciate it, and thank you very much. You want to say anything, Don?
No. I would just like to add to that, my wife is not retired yet, but she is an educator. She teaches at the college level. I will pass that along, and I know what you have to go through as teachers. It's a challenging environment out there, and thank you very much for what you do. Councilman Watson, would you like to say anything as well? Okay.
I got it. I have it. All right. All right. 1, 2, 3. All right. And then 1 more. 1, 2, 3. All right. It took about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I think you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you again. One more thanks to the retired educators of this community. We appreciate all you've done, and like I said, we understand what you go through. Now, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. I believe we don't have any other announcements or presentations at this time. The first item, we move on to each of the individual committees, as I noted in the protocol. And our first committee is the Economic Development Committee, and that will be taken by the Vice Chair, Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you. We have no business this evening for economic development.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next committee is the Finance Committee, and that is be handled by the Vice Chair, Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have 2 items tonight in the Finance Committee. Item A is adopt an ordinance to amend the City of Douglasville's fiscal year 2021-2022 general fund budget. Ms. Callen.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Karen Callen, Finance Director, 6695 Church Street. This is the first budget amendment for fiscal year 22. There are a couple items in the budget that needed amending. The couple of the main items are, first, our sales tax projections are higher than what we initially budgeted, so we are increasing that line item by $500,000. Building permits, due to additional multifamily and large warehouse projects, we're able to amend that budget upward of $200,000. We are bringing forward from prior years line items in the budget, which we have a detailed listing on page 3, and including in that roll forward, we have the $432,000 for cost of living, sick leave buyback, and employee incentives. Also, Parks and Recreation, where we have a clerical change from moving 1 employee from Parks and Recreation administration to athletics, park athletics. We are adding 2 employees into the inspections division, and with that, we are adding 2 vehicles, uniforms, and computers. And then finally, our other departments, a couple of small adjustments. Underground fiber for Church Street and Club Street at $20,000 to $40,000. Cubicles for the engineering department, additional funds for insurance, transfer to the multiple grant fund for 50% of the general funds match, and for the bulletproof vest grant for $15,621. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Ms. Callen. We talked about this in committees tonight. Does anybody have anything that's come up between then and now that you'd like to ask about? Nothing? All right. I'd like to ask to place this on the consent agenda for Monday, if that'd be fine. All right. Thank you, Ms. Callen. Item B is authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Contour Engineering LLC for construction materials, testing, and special inspections at the city's amphitheater town green site. Mr. Marcus Thompson will take this.
Good afternoon, Marcus Thompson, City Engineer, 6701 Church Street. All right, with us approaching the construction of the Town Green and Amphitheater project, it's standard procedure to hire a third-party geotechnical engineer to provide construction materials testing and special inspections as well, and also stormwater monitoring services. So we solicited to 4 different firms for these services. We received proposals back from GeoHydro, Contour, Atlas, and Nova. We feel as though Contour Engineer provided the most complete bid, demonstrated the best understanding of the project and project site, and offered the best value to the city of Douglasville for this project. Additionally, their proposal is within budget allowance for this scope of work. And based on this information, we feel as though we should proceed with Contour. Also, I have Mr. Barkley here with CPS to provide any additional information and answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Did anybody have any questions? Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a kickoff date for this specifically scheduled yet for when the actual test? I guess this is for testing for structures and so forth. Do we have what's our expectation on the beginning? I'm getting a lot of questions from people. It's like, when are we going to do something out there?
Hello, my name is Barkley Ritchie. I'm with CPS. We're the program manager. So we had a pre-construction kickoff meeting earlier this week with the contractor and with the city and other parties involved. And so what we are targeting is to start mobilizing the month of October. That is our goal. We are in the process of getting the land disturbance permit, but we are right now pushing to get started the month of October as requested.
But you don't have a specific date yet?
We do not have a specific date as to when that is, but we are well in that underway to try to meet that.
If I'm not mistaken, we already had a groundbreaking, sort of an official groundbreaking, did we not, about a year or two ago?
Probably a little bit longer than that. We did when we started the cleanup.
I'm wondering if we should have an second official groundbreaking.
That's
when
at
people
your
actually see
pleasure.
things, equipment out on the site or not, but, okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other council members that have a question? All right. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I would ask that this also be placed on a consent agenda for Monday. Everybody okay with that? All right, thank you. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that's all I had tonight under finance.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. Our
Thank
next
you.
committee is Housing and Community Affairs. That is, will be led by Chairwoman Dr. LaShawn Berdanley.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're
Our
welcome.
next committee is the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, also to be handled by the Vice Chair. Doctor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business under Legislation and Intergovernmental tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can see who the busy people are going to be tonight. Next committee is the Personnel and Organization Committee, and that will be handled by Chair Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have 2 items tonight under Personnel and Organization. Item A, amend Section 11-4 of the city's Personnel Policies and Procedures Ordinance to provide for Juneteenth Day as a city holiday. Ms. Austin Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm so used to saying that. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry about that. And Council, Tia Austin Bing, 6695 Church Street. The first item on the last round, if you remember, we came before you with research from our local neighbors as it relates to them adopting Juneteenth as a holiday. It became a federal holiday this year. So we wanted to recommend that we also adopt this holiday to make it our 12th holiday, paid city holiday time for our employees. It is trending, and we wanted to bring this before you in hopes of having this approved as well to be able to amend our personnel policies and procedures.
Thank you, Ms. Austin Bean. Now, we discussed this, what was it, a round or two ago?
Yes, sir, one round ago.
And approved it. So this, voting on this on Monday will make it official. Okay.
If you so choose.
Any questions about this being a paid holiday, or anybody? It's a quiet bunch tonight. Well, Ms. Austin Bing, I'm going to ask if we can put this on the consent agenda for Monday. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Austin Bing. Item B, adopt a resolution providing for one-time special holiday season payments to the City of Douglasville employees. Ms. Austin Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, it is that time of the year. Some of you may remember where we come before Mayor Pro Tem, and Council to make a recommendation to adopt this resolution for our employees for holiday bonus payments. The criteria is that full-time employees be employed 6 months as of December 1st of this year in the amount of $300. Full-time employees be employed for 3 months as of December 1st in the amount of $150. And then part-time employees will be eligible at 6 months as of December 1st in the amount of $150. We are also recommending our supermarket gift card to be awarded to our employees as well, in the amount of $50 per employee, no matter how long they've been employed. And I'll take any questions if you have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Austin Bing. Any questions from Mayor Pro Tem or Council? Yes.
I just wanted to make a note. This has not changed, with the exception of traditionally the supermarket gift card was $20. So I advised our HR director that I think based on the times that we may need to up that a little bit more. So I just wanted you to be aware that everything stays the same with the exception of the gift card to the supermarket.
So inflation has affected our gift cards now.
Yeah, I think we all know we can't get much for $20 at the
That's true.
supermarket anymore.
Can't even fill up a grocery bag with $20. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Austin Bing, and there's no questions. Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that this is definitely well-deserved. We have the best city staff, I think, anywhere, and they make us look good.
Yes.
They really do. And it's well-deserved, and it's the least we can do, but we're very, very appreciative of all the hard work that we get out of our city staff, especially in what can be considered very challenging times.
Yes,
you guys
sir.
are stuck with it.
We do get feedback around this time of year where they really appreciate those two items, so I agree. Yes, sir.
That's all, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, and I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday also. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. That's all I had tonight under Personnel and Organization.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. Moving on to our next agenda item, that is Planning and Development Committee. That will be chaired tonight by Dr. LaShawn Burr-Danley. Take a deep breath.
One deep breath. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have several items tonight, and I just, prior to our staff, Mr. Ryan coming, I'd like to just say that the order that we will proceed is our staff will read the item, and I will follow up with them, as well as the developer will come up and speak. Then we'll have comments from our council. We'll have a public hearing for those that are for the project, which would be 20 minutes, and those that are against the project, 20 minutes. So we'll make sure that I'm sure Ms. Acker will accurately make sure that we're in with those time frames. And then, of course, the developer can come and make comments after our residents, our citizens have comments. Okay, Mr. Ryan. Yes, sir.
You want me? I can't see it.
Okay, so can we change the screens? Does it?
Okay, the first item is hold a public hearing and consider requests for a change in zoning from R2 Single Family Residential District to PUD Planned Unit Development District for 83.3 acres at the northeast intersection of Presley Mill Road and Timber Ridge Drive and land lot 54, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 2. Application by the Revived Land Group, care of Neville Allison, Managing Partner.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Ryan Anderson, 6701 Church Street. First, I'd like to give a background on the public participation and public dissemination process as it relates to this case. There's been a total of 6 meetings conducted related to this zoning item. There has been 2 planning commission hearings, 1 city council workshop, and 3 meetings by the applicant. The zoning case has been advertised in the Douglasville Sentinel for 3 runs. A public notice sign has been posted on the frontage of the subject property for a total time exceeding 5 weeks. The case has been advertised on the city's website for approximately 3 weeks. City staff has mailed public notice letters based on the county's GIS website to addresses within 300 feet of the subject property. The Planning Commission originally heard this zoning item on September 15, 2021, and voted for a unanimous recommendation of approval. The item was heard by the City Council on 9/16, and no action was taken, and the case was remanded back to the Planning Commission on 9/16. The applicant held another public information meeting on October 5, 2021, to give those citizens who may have missed earlier meetings an opportunity to engage. The Planning Commission reheard the case on 10/12 and once again recommended approval unanimously. This meeting marks the 7th meeting related to this particular zoning case. Finished with the background now, about to begin the presentation. According to the recent census numbers, the city of Douglasville had approximately a 12% increase in population, growing from 30,961 in 2010 to 34,650 in 2020. A recent City of Douglasville housing study assessment stated that a key to preventing housing costs skyrocketing as Douglasville grows is the need to meet future housing demand by continuing to develop enough housing. For Douglasville to meet its forecasted housing demand, it needs to add roughly 140 units per year between 2021 and 2025. Right now, we're a little bit behind on that. This project will help us in those efforts. This rezoning application is being submitted by the Revived Land Group. This rezoning will facilitate the development of a new 238-unit single-family residential community consisting of 42-foot, 50-foot, and 60-foot wide single-family detached lots. The site is designed so that the largest lots are located along the periphery of the site, closest to the adjoining lot lines, and the smallest lots are located toward the center of the site. The proposed development is consistent with the purpose and intent of the UDO. The city's UDO states that the intent of the PUD zoning designation is to encourage the best possible site plans and building arrangements under a unified plan of development rather than a lot-by-lot regulation. That is precisely what the developer accomplished with this proposal. The proposed amendment introduces a development with a density of 2.83 units per acre into an area that is economically stable and thriving. The site plan shows 230 single-family residences of various sizes and lot dimensions. The proposed project will inject new residents with possible disposable incomes to help maintain the standards of the immediate area and provide economic benefits to businesses located within the city limits. Also, the proposed development furthers the intent of the comprehensive plan. The proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use designation for a regional activity center. PUD is a recommended land use under the regional activity category. The PUD zoning, the applicant proposes to rezone 83 acres for a proposed single-family residential development. The surrounding land uses to the north and northeast includes 2 single-family detached residential developments that are zoned PUD. West of the subject property, across from Timber Ridge Road, is a tract of land recently rezoned to OI that is being developed with a multifamily senior housing development known as the Harmony at Timber Ridge. South and west of the subject property is Brighton Academy, a charter school, and Ben House, a senior living development. Also on the south side is a small residential single-family detached development. The proposed project is congruent with one of the goals of the city's comprehensive plan character area, and that is to provide for varying densities of residential development. This development meets that goal by providing 2 or more differing densities of single-family residential living for the surrounding community. The applicant's proposals does reasonably promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. The applicant is taking vacant land which has been undeveloped for decades and developing single-family residences. This proposed project will add to the city's tax base. The PUD zoning designation will allow the developer to build homes with similar R2 specifications on smaller lots. Furthermore, PUD will be the most optimal zone for the subject property because of the environmental and topographical issues associated with the site, while leaving an abundance of land undisturbed. An R2 development would not be viable at this location, thus rendering the current zoning classification as less desirable. If approved, staff recommends the following conditions. These conditions were developed with the applicant in conjunction with the local community. There are 17 conditions. The first one is the site plan will be developed in general conformance to the site plan submitted to city staff dated July 19, 2021, based on the final design with site topography and constraint. Minor modifications to the plan may be approved with the consent of the Douglasville City Council. A mandatory HOA will be established and set up by the builder to be taken over once the project is fully sold out. Number 3, the rental restriction for the HOA is to be capped at a maximum of 5% of the homes at all times. Number 4, minimum square footage of the homes are to be 1,800 square feet and up. Elevations are to be cementous material and consist of a combination of brick, stone, shake, hardy panels, hardy plank, or real stucco. No vinyl or synthetic stucco is allowed on the homes. Elevations are to be in general conformance to elevations submitted to staff and presented to the Planning Commission. Number 6, the frontage along Presley Mill Road will have a 6-foot high fence that will consist of brick columns every 75 feet and black aluminum fencing along the entire frontage of the site along Presley Mills. The colors of the fence are to match the color tones found along Presley Mill. Number 7, the property will be developed with a maximum of 238 single-family detached lots. There will be a minimum of 57 lots that are 60 feet in width. Number 8, the minimum lot size allowed in development is 4,200 square feet and 42 feet in width for the single-family detached lots. Number 9, all open space setbacks and lot dimensions are defined on the attached site plan dated July 19, 2021. Number 10, the community will be developed with a clubhouse-style building for the pool area, a pool, and a common area for residents. Number 11, sidewalks will be located along both sides of the streets, internal to the site along Presley Mill Road. Sidewalks are not required along Timber Ridge except south of the proposed access point and constructing south. No sidewalks are to be constructed down Timber Ridge on the north side of the access. Number 12, there will be a 25-foot landscape replanted setback along the south and eastern borders with the neighbors. Number 13, the project is to coordinate with the City of Douglasville Public Works Department on recommendation and improvements to the entrance off Presley Mill Road and the intersection of Presley Mill and Frank Lane. Number 14, all lots will be set back at least 80 feet from Presley Mill Road. Number 15, right-of-way dedication along Presley Mills is to be provided for the intersection improvements. 16, elevations shall include a 2-foot brick water table on the side of all homes. Elevations shall include decorative carriage-style garage doors.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
The applicant is here.
All right, and applicant can come forward, please. You'll state your name and your address for the record, sir.
Let me get out. She gave me the.
Sure, I understand.
Okay, perfect. Kenneth Wood, 350 Research Court, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. So it's great to be before you guys again to run through the project and even go over changes that we've made even since you saw it last time. And so bringing up the aerial so that you can see as we have Presley Mill and Timber Ridge. And really, as you look at the aerial, that was kind of the very first thing we saw when we started the project was that we fit right in with other lot sizes, other lots around us, other zonings. And then as we started looking through the activity center, we knew this was where a perfect site would be for residential development. It's close to job centers just off to the west, as well as other residential just off to the east, as well as it's close to the schools, private and public. As we're looking at kind of our journey, our journey started way back in March when we first started planning and started meeting with staff in April and May. We had our first community meeting in June. We sent those notices out, the way we always do and that we thought to do, and we had good representation at the first and second meeting. Our plan started off, and what we're going to kind of go over with you guys is kind of where we started with several years ago about the plan that we had and what we learned from the community. And then after our first community meeting, what we learned from that and the advances we made there. And then after another community meeting last week, what we learned from there and even made more changes since then in the last week. And so getting into it, looking at land use, for all the reasons Ryan said is why we're seeking your approval, is for every document the city has on land use, zoning, density, activity center, we're right in the middle, if not on the lower end of exactly where we should be with the PUD. When you look at the regional activity center, that's where you want to put your intents and your uses. This is not an intense use, but it's on the lowest scale of the regional activity center, and we fit right into it on the edge of there. Just across the street with us, you have basically what's being built right now with the new senior facility. It's upwards of 7 units per acre, and then you have the other senior facility just to the west of us. It's upward of 14, and so forth, as I'll run through some different density barriers around us. Looking at the zoning, PUD was where we settled on, and it wasn't just because of the map, but when you look at the map, you realize there's PUDs all around us, and what makes the most sense. When you look at the land use, that was what was the most fitting for the site as well. Even as we were going through the different iterations of the plan, it always stayed consistent that was the best land use for the site. As you're looking at the density surround us, you'll see that we're on that lower end of that density, but this was the most fitting zoning for our site because it gives us the flexibility to make the site more unique and consolidate it, which leaves more room to be able to keep undisturbed and more room for park space. So this is the plan that we had several years ago going forward. This was 396 units. It consisted of multifamily senior apartments. It had clustered detached that crossed the creek and went to the other side. It also had attached townhomes at a density of just under 5 units per acre. And so what we heard loud and clear from the neighborhood was that they did not want to see any more apartments. They definitely did not want to see any attached townhomes. And they wanted to make sure that everything we were going to be building out there was not going to be any rental. No rental. Do you have to disturb the entire site? There any preservation, buffers against the neighbors, the fencing along Presley Mill. And so what we did is this project died and the Revive Land Group moved forward. So we tried to take all of those ideas in our first meeting, and I went over everything that I had heard to pass along to them and go over, well, what does this plan want to be? And the answer was very clear in talking to the neighbors. That would be a non-rental, single-family, detached deal. And so as we started moving forward, this was our initial plan. It was 260 lots, and we were across the creek over where the gas line is. And this was the first item that we brought forward into the submittal and our first community meeting that we had. As we moved forward, the things came out as, can you reduce units? Let's look at Presley Mill, road improvements on Presley Mill, buffering up against neighbors to the south and to the east. Do we need to go, cross the gas line? Is there anything we can do to preserve that, preserve any land, the trees? How close are you to the creek? The HOA rental restrictions, making sure we had an HOA, substantial materials on the buildings. All of these are the type of comments we started receiving. And so our final submittal to the city, we reduced the plan down to 238 lots, which is 2.86 units per acre. We actually submitted representative architecture that we actually have revised since then. We pulled everything away from the creek. And so we have places where outside of even the impervious buffer, we don't even touch any of that with our lots. Some of the back of our lots are upwards of 50 or 75 feet from the impervious buffer. So that means our houses are upwards of 100 to 110, 120 away. We removed all of the lots on the north side. That means that we only have one access point, which creates a loop through the site to Timber Ridge. The second access point on Timber Ridge and all the disturbance on the north side of the creek, That is all gone on the latest iteration. That means that gas line will be left completely alone, and that there's about 10 acres on that side of the creek alone that's usable for future use, either by the HOA or if there's some other interest for any type of future use for a park or any type of idea like that. What we did on the plan, when you look at it, is really try to consolidate everything. And this is another map showing density comparisons. So when you look at it, you can see the reds around, and so everything around us is higher densities, and some of them much higher densities, some of them 2 or 3 times, even 4 times with the senior apartments next door. There's really on the one site just below us that was platted back in 2004, and it's only 50% built out in 2021 that's below us, that's a little bit lower density at 1.86. Every other one's, our 2.86 is actually lower than all the others. And this is a kind of an intensity map, and this kind of tells you exactly why we chose the site, why we think it's such a great fit, because these are the higher intensities. These are job markets. These are office, commercial, other areas that you can go to. And so you can see that our site is centered around other neighborhoods as well as schools, churches, office, commercial, where you can go very close nearby, and it has a good network of roads for us to be able to get there. This is the land plan, and that was kind of the density comparison. You can see the 1.52 right below us. That was Presley Park. That's not built out yet. 3.47 at Gardens at Kensington, 3.49 at Slater Mill, and then you have the townhomes close to 8. The senior apartments beside us close to 14, and the new ones that were just approved close to 7 units per acre. There was a lot of discussion, just to clear up anything if you guys listened to the recording of the Planning Commission. There was a lot of discussion. It got really confusing, and I tried my best to describe it about, well, since we're consolidating everything and leaving 40% plus of the property alone, why do we count that other property in your density calculations? And we were just explaining that every property in the entire city, really, I've never seen an ordinance where you don't count anything. You net out floodplain, but you always count your entire site. We have a large tract of land, and so 238 units seems to be a lot of units to some people that we've talked to, but it's only because it's a really large tract of land. It just happens to be 83 acres in an area that has some development and some tracts that are still left undeveloped. So what we've done is really consolidate it. We've added those buffers on the south side so that we don't have our lots coming anywhere close to Presley Mill. We don't have lots touching back on the east side. We took everything off of the north side. We pulled everything away from the buffers. We're pulled 80 feet plus away from Presley Mill and at least 50 to 80 feet off of Timber Ridge, and you only have a glimpse of even being able to see the project off of Timber Ridge, and then the entire rest of Timber Ridge will remain the way you see it today, undisturbed in perpetuity. And so when you're looking at the access, we lined up the access point off Presley Mill, making sure from a traffic perspective that works, and we put all of our larger units around the peripheral and put the smaller lots into the middle so that we can also have a good spread and also have everything from the exterior being the larger lots. Now our plan is to have it's an 1.5 to 2 acre amenity area. It's a really large amenity area. We think it's going to be, beside just how much undisturbed area we have, another big selling part of this community is to have such a vibrant and large amenity with a pool, with pickleball courts, with an active clubhouse, with walking trails, and the ability to have, whether it's families, singles, individuals, be able to live here and have a lot of amenities at their disposal within their community. When you're looking at it, road improvements, we have our traffic engineer here tonight, Abdul Mir with A&R Engineering, to answer anything about that. I know there's a lot of questions. We've been going every day. This is our 8th trip to sit there at 5 o'clock and understand the traffic, and really invested a lot of time to understand it and make sure that we were able to answer any questions. As we're moving on, the buffer and stormwater was another really large item. We've made at least 2 acres of stormwater area for the site. Now, we're only developing about 60% of the site because we've been able to consolidate it, leave the rest of it alone. But we've also added buffers around the perimeter of the site, and this kind of gives a zoomed in view about that transition of those lots to the other lots. And you can see that the The property on the south cleared right up to the property line, and so we'll be very opposite of that, to where we'll have landscaping and existing vegetation pushed out much further before the lots that we have. When you're looking at the site, let me see if that one, oh, there it is. So here's the green space exhibit. 37% if you just take out and don't count anything with yards, any part of the amenity, any part of a lot of other spaces. If you just look at that section of land, we're roughly saving 40% of the site, which is larger than most sites I have seen. You can also see the stormwater management area. There's a lot of downstream concerns on stormwater management, and we know we're putting forth a major foot forward to make a big difference there, to be able to do the water quality, the runoff reduction, as well as stormwater for detention reasons, for all of the flood protections. The way we're doing the pond, the first 1 inch won't even discharge from our site. And so as soon as last week, after we went through the first process, we had another community meeting that we had last week that was attended, which was fantastic. So we were able to get additional comments. We actually added 2 additional conditions. I know Ryan read them out. He stole my thunder. He's reading all of them out, so I didn't have to tonight. And so when you're looking at these, the 2 additional conditions that we added, there were great suggestions that came out of that meeting. It was about wrapping brick around, and then also the garage doors, and making sure the garage doors were really fancy and looked really good from the frontage. But we also added and wanted to bring forward additional elevations. We made sure to bring additional elevations that were all brick or all brick and stone on the elevations, or it have different things where some would have a front porch and some would not. So we really tried after that meeting and listening to some of the comments about elevations and what it was like to immediately respond to that, so that we can get this into the record and have this for the meeting, so that we have answered every step of the way, what we saw as an issue, and that we're able to do that. One other thing I'll say, and then I'll let Neville come up here, is we had a gentleman speak at the Planning Commission about some endangered flowers, at the meeting that occurred in a couple of different places on the property. And what I told him after the meeting is, we didn't, if this was approved during the LDP process, we don't have any problem in, meeting with them and understanding. He basically says they can be transplanted and set into another part of the property. But he said you can only see them in a certain time of year, so someone like him would need to identify those and be able to transplant them. But we did not have a problem with that. And with that, I'll bring Neville up to go over additional details.
Thank you. And sir, if you'll just give us your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Neville Allison, managing partner of the Revive Land Group, 3500 Lenox Road, Atlanta, Georgia. Ryan, Ken, everybody's done a great job with the overview. Frankly, I know you guys are getting tired of this presentation, because I am. It's the 7th time we've given it. It continues to improve a little bit, so I'm just going to try to hit on some of the highlights on this one. I think this is a very important slide to look at. The red represents, as Ken said, residential subdivisions in our immediate area. What this is 7 residential developments within a half mile of our site that are all at a higher density than we are. That is the definition of precedent and conformity. And those are really important things as it comes to land use. We can look here, that's all the commercial uses around us. But again, I think that's a very important slide. We've gotten praise from some of you guys, and we really appreciate that, as well as Planning Commission members on our willingness to work with the neighborhood. I think we've gotten better from our meetings with the neighbors. I think we had a bunch of supporters after the first couple, but then there were some people that said, hey, we didn't know about those meetings. That's not fair. So I personally went out and posted 4 signs on the property announcing another public hearing, and we held it here in your ballroom, which is a great AV facility. We had a ton of people show up. We answered questions as best we could. We listened to what they said. The biggest thing that came out of that meeting really wasn't about our land use. It wasn't about the single-family homes. It wasn't about 238 units. It was mostly about you need to call the project a different name. It's the main entrance on Presley Mill. It shouldn't be called Timber Ridge. Personally, I think Timber Ridge is a prettier name, but if we want to call it Presley Mill something, that's fine too. But some good comments came on our elevations. People, again, it's subjective, not an objective thing, but people didn't like our elevations. They thought that the garage doors were too plain and white. They thought that they looked cheap because they didn't have enough stone and hard materials and brick. So we added carriage-style garage doors, which are an upgrade. It's more expensive. They look better. We added more stone and brick to these elevations. And frankly, I just think they look better than they did before. We wrapped the water table on the side. There was a comment from Councilman Miller. I think that adds an added look to the side elevations. Nonetheless, there's always going to be some opposition to development. It's change. It's scary for people, and they don't like it. It's been vacant land forever, and they'd probably like to see it that way. So that's not unusual. It's also not unusual to have some support for a development. But what is unusual is to have that support come to meeting after meeting after meeting and take personal time away from their families at night and come and voice that support. And these aren't people that just came to the last meeting and said, I think I'm going to support that thing. They've been involved in this project longer than I have, going on 3 years now, and led the charge of opposition in previous attempts. And now I think some of those people are here to voice their support of our proposal. This is the same plan that you guys heard. It's the same plan that got unanimously approved by Planning Commission twice. It's the same plan that your professional staff has recommended approval. And again, this is a hearing about land use. And our land use fits your future land use plan. It fits the goals of your comprehensive plan. And the PUD category is a permitted category within that future land use map. And again, we're at a lower elevation, a lower density than everybody else. Just a couple other things to touch on. The comprehensive plan kind of outlines growth goals for the city of Douglasville. It's 1.5% annual growth. The numbers that Ryan just outlined in his presentation touched on that it's fallen short of that. The city has not had 1.5% annual growth over the last 10 years. It's been less. And I was thinking today, why is that? What's going on? So I went back and I looked at that report, your 10-year strategic plan, and it talked about needing 600 plus new homes annually to be the for sale portion of that 1.5% growth. And I pulled the number of new home sales in Douglasville over the last 12 months, and you're at 345 of them. And that's half of what your 10-year strategic plan says that it needs to be. That growth is what's going to support the City on the Green project and all of that retail. It's going to be increasing that tax base to have those folks come out and use all those things. Our site's a mile away from that. They're going to be at it all the time. I think it's going to be awesome. It's why you built the parking garage here, for people to come to downtown and utilize all those lifestyle amenities. So then I wanted to look and see, well, why hasn't there been more activity out here in Douglasville? I went back through every Planning Commission agenda over the last 12 months, and you guys know this. How many single-family proposals have been before the Planning Commission over the last year? It's 0. And it's because they're hard. They're really hard. You see townhomes, people want to do that. It's hard to create a site plan like what we have, where you can meet what the neighbors have done, what the neighbors want, and also a high-intensity future land use map, and still make it economically viable for the developer. And I think we've done that here. So I think that's pretty important to look at. As far as the market, some people have commented in the past of, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to sell all those homes. Is there a demand for them? I think from the supply side that I just explained, there is a demand. But further than that, I pulled all of the new construction homes currently for sale in the entire city of Douglasville. There's 14 as of this afternoon listed on FMLS. That's not enough. They measure months of supply of housing. And what they're doing now in the Atlanta MSA and Douglasville included, they're measuring it in weeks of supply because it's such a serious housing crisis. If you want to live in the city of Douglasville in a new construction home, I don't want to say you don't have any options, but you don't have a lot right now. And that's what we're trying to create. So with that, we added the additional conditions. The site plan's the same. We'll answer any questions you guys have. We brought our traffic engineer here with us that can speak very technically about the traffic in the area. And we're happy to call him up if you guys have specific questions with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allison, for your comments and also to your staff. Are you all done with your comments? Okay, great. So yes, this has been a long process. However, it's not the first long process that we have. One thing about this mayor and council, since I've been a council member, is that we listen to our residents, and we really, really want to make sure that we get it right. And in our city, listening to our residents, whether they oppose or support, is sometimes it's called patience, and we just go through the process. So thank you for being here again. I will yield my comments and start with Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller with any comments, and then just open the floor for our other members of council.
No comments at this time.
Okay. Any other council members have any comments?
I want to hear what people have to say.
Sure. Okay. You want to wait until?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so we will open the floor now to hold a public hearing for the residents that are here, or business owners that may have, who are for this development. So if you have not completed or filled out a card to turn in to our city manager, you can do that. And Ms. Acker will be ready to set our timer. So for those that support this development, if you will please, thank you, come forward, state your name and address, and then we'll go from there. So there's 20 minutes for those that support and 20 minutes for those that oppose. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
I'm Dan Holtz. I reside at 9157 Saddlebrook Way in Douglasville, and I'm the president of the Saddlebrook HOA. And our subdivision has about 124 single-family houses, and 92% of them are occupied by owners. Two of our HOA board members attended both the June and the July 21 presentations, as well as the most recent session by the developer proposing Somerset at Timber Ridge. At the June developer-sponsored session attended by representatives from several HOAs along the Presley Mill corridor and from Brighton Academy, we were impressed by the fact the initial proposal was significantly below the approximately 400 units in the proposed development from 2019. At the July session with the proposed developer, along with representatives from other HOAs along the corridor, we were pleased with their revised proposal that brought the number of proposed single-family units down to the 238 number in the current proposal, with the acreage to be developed reduced from the full 83.3 acres down to around 53 acres. The proposed square footages of the single-family homes, starting at around 1,800 square feet, is going to approximately 3,000 square feet and maybe a little bit more, makes the homes more comparable to most of the current residences along the corridor. Furthermore, the pricing of the proposed units is fairly consistent with the cost of existing homes along the corridor. Yes, the lot sizes are smaller than what is found in Saddlebrook and nearby subdivisions, but we recognize the people who are purchasing newer homes today, and likely will be well into the future, are not looking for 1/3 or 1/2 acre lots that can require considerable yard maintenance. Our HOA board reviewed the initial proposal from June and the revised one from July, and found them to be much more acceptable than the previous 2019 proposal. Our board put out information about the project to our residents by posting to our website, our newsletter, and our annual meeting on June 26th, which included the findings of our review of the proposals, the conclusions we came to that this proposal is much more favorable than the previous one, and from others that might be brought forward in the future if this proposal is not approved. Our report that the HOA board supports this development proposal, and our encouragement to our residents to support this development and to make their feelings regarding it, whether positive or negative, known to mayor and council. We recognize there are concerns by some residents in the corridor about increased traffic along both Presley Mill and Timber Ridge. However, the developer has proposed to put in mitigations to address them by installing deceleration and turn lanes at the Frank Lane entrance off Presley Mill and the entrance along Timber Ridge adjacent to the Benton House. Timber Ridge is presently used as a cut-through from Slater Mill to Presley Mill, and there will be likely some increased traffic resulting from this proposed development. However, it will not be as great as a 400-unit development or a business use development that could be proposed at some future time. A concern raised by some residents along the Timber Ridge corridor about cars speeding along that street really isn't relevant to this proposal. The speeding is already occurring, and this development has no control over this issue at this time or in the future, and it's a police matter. It really has nothing to do with what's being proposed here tonight. We recognize the density of houses in the proposed subdivision is higher than some older subdivisions along the corridor, but then 238 is a heck of a lot less than 400. The setbacks and the way the layout is proposed to place the larger homes on the outer perimeter of the development and the smaller ones in the center will compensate for appearances to other neighborhoods. I was recently diverted off of I-285 onto West Paces Ferry Road in Vinings and down a neighborhood street that ended up at South Atlanta Road. At that intersection, there was a subdivision to the right with houses resembling the size and design being suggested for this development. They were very presentable and to some degree similar in appearance to houses in the Chapel Hill subdivision on Heatherwood Court and Avion Park. Finally, we know that the current owners of this property are going to sell it, probably as soon as possible. The people who object to this proposal need to keep in mind the possible consequences of another proposal with even higher densities and multi-use, including rentals, not just single-family owned homes. That could be put on this property.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Yes. We support it and we recommend approval.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, ma'am. You can come down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rita Harper, and I live at 9044 Bond Street, Douglasville, Georgia. And I am president of Kensington Gardens, which is directly across from the property that we are referring to. Now, most of my thunder has been taken by the presentation and by those that have already commented, but if you'll bear with me a few moments, I just wanted to thank the Mayor Pro Tem, the City Council members for the opportunity to address the City Council in regard to this development land use by Kenneth Wood and Neville Allison. Kenneth Wood touched base with the board at Kensington Gardens May 27, 2021, to request a meeting with the HOA board members of communities that are adjacent to the Presley Mill and Timber Ridge roads. I was a part of 3 years ago putting down a number of houses and townhomes and so on that were to be built in that area. It was not going to be complimentary to any of the communities around that area. So with him coming back to us, wanting to talk with us, communities, leaders, HOA leaders, and wanting to do that prior to ever presenting anything to Planning and Zoning or City Council. So since Kenneth Wood had several requests from clients wanting to purchase and build on the property, and he knew the adjacent communities opposed to the previous request for land use due to, as I stated, townhomes, apartments, and a two-story building. It was a structural building for seniors. He asked our board to contact the communities, the HOAs, and so that we could hear the new proposal. And as I stated, he wanted to know something prior to ever bringing that to the city. He wanted to present a new development to the communities adjacent to the property prior to presenting any plan or Planning and Zoning to the City Council. Therefore, we did emails, we did texts, we sent out to the HOA board officers to begin the process of meeting with Kenneth Wood and Neville Allison. Now, when we had this land use brought before you before, I was very instrumental in contacting and making all the communities aware. And it wasn't a matter of leadership, it was a matter that it just fell that way to Kensington Gardens. So that's the reason that we were so involved, and I'm so involved in this situation again. At the meeting, the officers that were requested to show up did come, and we had a June 16 meeting at the planning office for the purpose of hearing the new proposal. And several of our communities chose to show up. And let me reiterate again, every single community, I have a file on my computer, and I contact all of the HOA members so that they in turn can notify and let the homeowners know exactly what's going on so that they can be a part of that. So some of this is choice and decision to be available for opposition or to approve. So after that, questions and answers were given. And then on July the 22nd at the Convention Center, they presented again, the developers did questions and answers, which once again, we complied with. Let's let all the homeowners know. Let's give them the information. When the HOA boards came to the meetings, you know, we took the information, and then it was our responsibility as the HOA board of those communities to notify the individual homeowners. And the reason for this, COVID was very rampant at that particular time, as it has made a return. So because of the pandemic, we did start with HOA board members. This was to avoid large crowds being in contact with each other. So we did many emails, we did texts, we did phone calls, and HOA board presidents were made available during the months prior to the presentation of the Planning and Zoning Office. The planning hearings were scheduled for September, with the presentation for September 15, 16, and 20, as you remember. The September planning and zoning approval was considered not valid and required to meet any or all homeowners to attend and update information. So as was stated by the developers, they personally went out.
Thank you, Ms. Harper.
My time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, I won't go through all of the other, if you will let me just state that. In lieu of the fact that they...
Ms. Harper, I really wish I could, but I can't. Your time is up. Thank you.
Will we approve what is being submitted?
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Do we have anyone else here who would like to speak in support? Okay, if not, then now open the floor for those that are in opposition of this development. If you'll please come forward. If you have not completed and filled out a card, please do so with our city manager to my right. Come to the podium, microphone, speak your name, and give your address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. My name is Lisa Reeves, and I live at 9322 Savoy Court. I want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address my concerns and opposition to this rezoning. I appreciate that you all want to get it right and you want to do it by the books. So first and foremost, I am concerned about the actual density of the property being developed. The proposal from the developers states that 37% of the 83.3 acres is open green space, meaning that only 63% of the 83.3 acres is getting developed. That is 52.48 acres total. 238 homes on 52.48 acres means that the density is actually 4.54 units per acre, not 2.86. The applicant responses provided by the applicants on July 21st, 2021 states in answer to question 9 that the proposed development will have a gross density less than many surrounding PUD-zoned developments. When asked about this, I was told that density of only developed property, so excluding the green space, is not done. However, the PUD properties that are being used for comparison do not contain large amounts of open green space, therefore making those comparisons obsolete. 238 homes is significantly less than 400. and I do recognize that there is support due to people preferring this proposal over the proposal of 2019. I do not think that the question here is between these two options, A or B. Neither are a fit for this area. Instead, we should recognize that this proposal is headed in the right direction, and with further modifications, it could be optimal for this location. Larger lots equaling lower density, higher quality homes, and designs that are consistent with neighboring neighborhoods, surrounding neighborhoods. We were told that discussing the look of the proposed homes is not the purpose of these proceedings, but it seems to me that the look of the proposed homes should absolutely factor into whether or not to approve zoning changes, as it will affect the property values of homes of existing taxpayers. Please look at the renderings of what is being proposed. The homes are far too large for the lots that they are built on. Rather than enlarging the lot size and reducing the number of homes, the developers are opting to cram as many into that space as they can. There are 10 to 15 feet separating the homes in the interior of the subdivision. The home exteriors are subjectively of lesser quality than homes in surrounding ungated subdivisions. All garages are double-sized and forward-facing. Approving this development will set a precedent, allowing future developments to have lower quality and standards than what is currently found in this part of the city of Douglasville. Building material costs are skyrocketing due to the pandemic. Before you vote next week, I implore you to please drive through Kensington, where I live, Presley Place, Presley Park, Charlton Place, even Grace Lake, all off of Presley Mill Road. You will find lots in a variety of property sizes with a diversity of looks made of high-quality materials. The 2021 proposal revised plan also indicates that the total parking spaces provided are 998. This means that there will be a significant increase on traffic throughout all of the city of Douglasville, not just on Timber Ridge and Presley Mill Road, but on other currently overly congested roadways and intersections throughout the city of Douglasville and Douglas County. I respectfully oppose the current development proposal and ask for a further reduction in density be required for any development that is ultimately approved. Denying this proposal and maintaining the R2 zoning would resolve that matter. I ask that the Mayor Pro Temp, and City Council please require current impact analysis on community resources, as well as require builds that are consistent with surrounding ungated neighborhoods found on Presley Mill Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Okay, if not, we will close this public hearing. However, we'll have the developer come up and give some comments and rebuttal.
So just a couple of things. So that what we're hearing, this is what we were talking about at the Planning Commission about the density. Hold on, let me see if I can go. Oh, perfect. She kind of read my mind right there. So in looking at the site, it just happens to be that, some of the neighborhoods have a lot of open space. When you look at, Slater Mill, it has open space in the top, it has it in the bottom. And that's how all, sites are calculated, is it's a total site. You net out the flood, and then that's your density. This site happens to have a lot of undisturbed area, and it's, we pushed everything for the PUD, and when we took away lots, we were able to create that and been able to do that. In terms of the houses and, how they're set back, whether it's 10 feet, 15 feet on the sides, when you look just directly across the street, and you can see it on the aerial here, and you can see it on the aerial and all the different ones, we're equal, if not wider than all of those. And you can see, we're further away from the street, and the lots are, deep, if not deeper, than everything surrounding us for those lots. As far as the traffic counts go, it's a little deceiving. The way we list it on the plan for the parking is we have 2 spaces in the garage and then 2 spaces in the driveway. So that's 4 per every home. That's available. That doesn't mean that, you know, people will do that, but that's what's available on the site if you have guests over. But we also have a lot of parking for the amenity area in case somebody wants to drive to the amenity from the back of the site and they don't walk, then that's available too, as well as handicap accessibility. But that's how the parking spaces are counted. It's not that there'll be that many cars running out for it. And then the last comment I'll have, and then if you wanted anything on the traffic side, we can bring up, Abdul, is the gating. You know, we're definitely seeing a trend away from gating. You know, and kind of everywhere. You know, more open to us is better. That's why we wanted all of our streets to not have cul-de-sacs, so that everything is connected. You know, this is one of those sites that the terrain's pretty severe on here, and so that's what makes it want to be a little more traditional as we show. You know, when you're looking at alleys or different type of rear-loaded products where you'd have the garage in the back, you know, those generally are a lot easier to do when you don't have quite as much topography. And so this is a more traditional. We have bigger buffers around the edge, and we're really trying to consolidate everything to the inside to leave those buffers and have the community consolidated. So gating was not something that we have considered. So we purposely wanted that to be, you know, different from that.
Thank you.
Almost fell over, sorry about that. Just going to touch really quickly on, again, the density. Guys, it's the way it's defined in the UDO code. It's a statewide, national way that density is calculated. You know, if this property was to stay R2, you guys don't get to say anything about the way it's developed. We'll follow the development code. You know, developer would follow the development code. You don't get to enforce things like buffers. You don't get to ask for brick on homes. You know, you get every single square inch of this site turned into a lot, trying to maximize the number of lots. But when you go through a land use hearing, a zoning change, that's where you get this huge list of conditions that help govern what happens on the property. And I think that's what's important to a lot of the surrounding homeowners. And you know, that's what our conditions reflect. So with that, I'll answer any of you guys' questions.
Thank you so much. So we will now close the public hearing. I will yield to my colleagues, just opening the floor. I won't have to go down the list, but you all can just let me know who'd like to speak first. Yes, Councilman Watts.
Okay, I have a couple questions. First one may be directed at Ryan. The conditions listed on page 19, the 17 conditions, who enforces those or makes sure that they're followed through with, you know, just for the benefit of those listening and myself, because I'm not sure the answer.
Some of the conditions will be addressed during the development plan process. We will ensure that their houses are designed the way that they say that they will design them according to the conditions. And I guess the HOA would enforce some of the other ones, but most of them will be addressed during the development plan process.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Gentlemen, how long will it take to develop this out? Do you estimate from start to finish? And I know if it were to be approved, you know, from that time going forward, how long does it take to develop a subdivision this size?
Sure, absolutely. And one other thing I was going to add to the question you just asked too is that with these being conditions of zoning that we have to comply with, our HOA articles would have to include the rental restrictions and everything to it, so it would be enforceable. In terms of the development, let's say in a perfect world, you know, for us, we were approved. Let's say we submitted plans. Plans were approved in the spring. And so that would be spring of 2022. Construction would start on a site this size. You're probably looking at 8 or 9 months of horizontal construction. That's the ugly part of construction. That's when you see the grading and everything, and that would start to subside. And so that takes you all the way into, you know, closer to Christmas, almost 23. And at that point, you know, pulling model home permits, starting to be able to see, you know, wanting to be able to build multiple different types of products, because I think they have like 18 or 20 different types of house styles that they can do, including a ranch home, you know, for master down and everything. And in order to do that, probably, call it 5 or 6 months on the house. And so you're at summer of 23 when you start seeing the first homes. And then with this type of count of homes, you're probably looking at a 2026 build out, something around that standpoint. So it won't happen, it doesn't happen overnight. And I know there was a lot of discussion about city services. And so there's a long time that it leads up and taxes start flowing in.
Right. Okay. The two entrances, the one on Timber and the one on Timber Ridge and the one on Frank Lane, just out of curiosity, an entrance says everything a lot of times about a subdivision.
Absolutely.
So you probably haven't even gotten to that point yet, but do you anticipate a grand entrance?
We do. So 2 different styles. And so you can actually see it in our site plan. So Presley Mill is going to be what you would consider like a really grand entrance. We're going to have a divided median, well landscaped. We've conditioned that we're going to match the fencing that you see along Presley Mill to the other neighborhoods where you have the brick columns with the stone, and then also the black fencing along there with landscaping, new sidewalks. So Presley Mill, you can see how much open space. It's actually about 2.5 acres on the entire entrance at Presley Mill, so it'll have massive pop to it. Now, on the other hand, on Timber Ridge, that whole stretch is going to be undisturbed, and so we wanted that to feel much more like it will feel, which is undisturbed. So we left that as a smaller entrance because that with the creek and everything being there and all the trees being left, we wanted that to be more like you're sneaking in the back of kind of a country road. So on the Presley Mill side, we're matching all the grand that you see in the area with all our conditions. On the Timber Ridge side, we're trying to be a little more understated, but still well landscaped on the piece that you will be able to see.
And I know I saw it in here somewhere. I know you're going to have, as part of the amenities, a pool and a clubhouse.
Yes, very large area.
And I'm assuming it'll include tennis courts.
Yeah, we're actually looking at some different styles. As tennis courts are fading in some areas, pickleball is getting really, really popular and other things. And so we definitely are proposing and showing on our plan, and we listed in our conditions courts. But whether that's pickleball or tennis, we'll determine as we start marketing and figure out what people want to see, because it's definitely evolving.
A lot of folks have joined the two together as far as striping.
That could be it too, so that you can stripe one inside the other.
I asked this question when you were before us the last time, that a turn-in lane, it would be if you're going down Timber Ridge from the interstate side, going west on Timber Ridge to the light there at Brighton Academy and First Baptist Church, the turn-in lane that I asked about, I didn't clarify or specify, but would there be enough room on that road to have a left turn lane? Because a lot of cars do come down that road, and so anybody making a left might get held up. So I was just wondering what that's going to look like along that stretch.
So just to make sure I understand, so we will have a left turn into our development. Are you talking about the actual Presley Mill and Timber Ridge?
No, I was wondering about Timber Ridge. So you would have a left-in turning lane.
What we're showing on our plan is full turning movements on both Presley and Timber Ridge. Even though on our traffic study, the left turn didn't warrant, we were still showing those improvements.
Okay. And I think you've answered another question I had written down as far as similar type developments. And just one last question tonight, and I know I'll think of something between now and Monday. Who writes HOA covenants?
The builder does.
Okay, so y'all would be responsible for that? Right, okay.
And we typically submit those, they get submitted in, when you're doing the final plat, those get submitted into the city.
Okay, and I know that some of the folks I've heard from concerned about, houses turning into rental.
Sure.
And, in my own subdivision, we had a lot of houses turn into rental back in the last downturn of the economy, and y'all are putting into the covenants a 5% max rental, which, our own subdivision right now are trying to rewrite and get it voted in. You have to go to all the residents.
You got to get that percentage.
But of course, our HOA covenants were written in the 80s, so
right.
they've changed a lot.
What we're saying is approving the zoning with all of the conditions presented, that has that condition, so it forces the HOA to comply because it goes with the land. Even if let's say 100 different, the land traded 100 different times, that zoning condition always stays with the land.
That's all I have for tonight, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Watts. Any other council member? Yes. Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Guys, first, I would just like to thank you guys for all of the work that you've put into this proposal and going back to the community and speaking with them and the added conditions that have been made and some of the upgrades to the home sites as well. I do still have some reservations. I feel like 46 to 60-foot lot width is not an adequate lot size for 238 home sites. Maybe if it were only a handful of them at that, because I understand that there is a need for that, and we do have. So I'm a 17-year realtor, so I do understand that things change, and there are people out there who are looking for less yard space. Maybe they don't have so many dogs. Maybe they just don't want it, and that's understandable. But to find 238 buyers to want that small of a lot size, I think, is a pretty big ask. I also, although I do appreciate the upgrades that have been made to these home sites, I feel that it is still lacking. And at the price point that you guys are looking at the $175 a square foot, that is still over Douglas County and our new home sales price point. And I know that that may only be a $15 a square foot price difference, but when you're looking at 1,800 to 2,000 square foot, you're looking at like $35,000, and that's a lot of money for the average person. So I do appreciate the layout of the development. I think it's great. It makes sense. It's what a lot of people are looking for. But I just feel that there might be a few key factors that need to be looked at a little bit closer.
So it's a little deceiving. We had to set a minimum for the zoning conditions. So the 1,800 would be the ranch plan. So that would be just the flat. The majority of the homes go up to 3,000 square feet and over in terms of size. And so they're all over the board. Most of them are 2,500, then go up to 3, and then when you get basements, they get even bigger. Everywhere I'm going, really every jurisdiction, whether it's MSA, South, North, anywhere, the 50, that 45, 50, 60-foot lot is pretty much every community. And when you're getting bigger than that, I'm hardly seeing, any of them, that we're seeing as new construction, new zoning, unless you start getting pushed out really a lot further. And so, the idea of the whole community was to be very lock and go, very low maintenance yard, and I know Neville can touch on that.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on, the smaller lot sizes we mentioned. This area permits townhomes. It permits attached product. That's 0 lot lines, so that's, the smallest lot size you could have, 24 feet. So what we're trying to do is bridge that gap between a half-acre lot that's clearly not viable and a townhome. And this is what that smaller lot has. And I just wanted to read you real quick from your comprehensive plan where it talks about the plan also includes recommendations to revise a zoning district, parking regulations, and residential districts to promote smaller lot sizes and ease development constraints. And so again, we're following the direction as outlined in your comprehensive plan.
No, I understand that part completely. I've looked over the plans a lot, and I thank you guys for the detailed plans to go over. But as I said, I have concerns that 238 buyers are going to want a lot size this narrow. And if I'm being real honest with you, I took it with me to an agent open house last week, and every other agent in there felt the same way.
I appreciate your feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all at this time.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to bring up something that was mentioned in the presentation that still has me concerned, which is with city services. And I appreciate understanding the timeline better that you've discussed, that breaking ground won't occur probably until sometime in the 6 months to a year from now, and then full build-out probably several years down the road. But we're in a peculiar situation right now. And to give a singular example, with our sanitation department, we have a finite number of people, we're 25, 30, something like that, sanitation workers citywide. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but somewhere in that range. And I understand the concept that you bring up, okay, you're adding homes, therefore you increase the number of taxpayers, which therefore increases the number of people who contribute into the city's revenue stream, which therefore means we can hire more sanitation workers. Well, where that theory breaks down is that there just aren't sanitation workers out there right now. And I understand, okay, we're kind of almost in a sense placing a bet that we have 2 to 3 years to catch up and to find enough workers, whether it's in sanitation, whether it's police department, EMS, and so forth. But we may just be in this exact situation 2 to 4 to 6 years from now. This is a peculiar economy that we're in. It's a unique time, and so it's not just a question of increasing tax revenue, therefore we just go out and hire new people. They just may not be available over the next couple of years, whether we want them or not. And so that's the concern I have, is this comes back to that. My hat's off to you for all the effort you've done. I mean, I think you guys done a great job of bringing this closer to what the community is asking for, closer to what people's expectations are. You certainly presented a number of concessions that I think the council as a whole is appreciative of as well. But there are certain realities that are beyond your control, and I know you can't go out and hire sanitation people for us. It's not going to happen that way. You're not going to hire police officers. That's our responsibility. So it comes back to my concern, will we be able to support this from the city standpoint down
Yes,
the
sir.
road?
I'd love the opportunity to address that, if that's okay. So I was thinking about that because you asked, I had some lead time, and we talk about it all the time. Like, where is it, not just as developers, but as folks sitting around the water cooler or wherever, where is the workforce? Is it the stimulus checks? Is it lazier younger generation? Have they relocated? What is the answer? And there's certainly not one definite answer. A couple of things that I were to talk about is, municipalities have been able to hire folks. You've had sanitation workers since your inception. And so to think that, those people are just gone and there'll never be any more sanitation workers to hire, I'm just not sure that's the case. My personal opinion of what's happened in the labor market is COVID caused everything to contract so rapidly and all at once across every industry. Whether it's laying people off or they got stimulus money, didn't want to work, or were sick, or whatever. The national world workforce shrank right away. For anyone that owns a business and has tried to hire 1 or 2 people, it's a very tenuous process. It's hard. It's hard to interview candidates. It takes time. And so now all of a sudden everyone contracted and everybody's trying to grow all at once because the economy's hit the gas pedal and certain industries are booming, and everybody's trying to hire at once. And so it makes it really hard. It just takes time. It's not that they're not out there. I think it just takes time to rebuild that contracted labor force. I see it personally where I'm trying to bring guys onto my company and hire, 3 or 5 more people, and it takes forever. I'm competing against other companies, and just like you guys are competing against other cities for services. And so it's just going to take some time to add those people back on. And, I think we're fortunate in this development. It's a very long entitlement process, through the permitting process, through the development process. You don't build all the houses at once. You're building at about 60 or 70 a year. And so we're not going to be built out really, I think, until 2027. And so that's a long lead time to hire folks. The other thing that I'm super excited for you guys about the City Green project, and I've been reading about that, and it's big news, and everybody's all for it. Well, that project includes 350 apartment units, at least, from Mill Creek, and I bet that apartment developer is going to get some sort of tax abatement to be able to do those apartments, and so that's added residents without necessarily an increase in tax base, and it's also an attached product, which is where it should be, right there in downtown. But again, we're zoned. Not zoned, we are in a higher land use classification for the future land use, the regional activity center, than even the community activity center holds. And so again, I'd go back to the land use issue, but I hope I answered your question on the workforce.
No, I think you handled it pretty well. I don't disagree with your assessment. I think it's pretty astute on a number of levels. My concern, though, still does come back to, and I think you're right about the contraction and expansion of the economy, the way it's working right now in the labor force. But there are some longer-term trends that we are going to be fighting to a certain extent demographically. And I keep saying this, it's similar to what Europe and Japan went through a generation ago, is their birth rate declined, they have fewer younger people. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. As a small business owner, I've been struggling to find some help as well. There's just nobody in the architecture field that is looking for a job right now. I suppose if they are looking for a job, you got to wonder why they're looking for a job. But from the long-range demographic standpoint, I mean, it may come down to robotization. This is the first chance for our future robot overlords to start taking over. But that's going to be, you're going to see mechanization and automation happening in a lot of industries, and I don't know. We're trying to do some of that in sanitation. Again, going back to that as an example, we have new technology with the trucks that require fewer people to use, but bottom line is, you still, as you pointed out, we have a number of people coming in on the town green. If your project gets approved, that's quite a number more there. There's several other proposals out there that are lingering. All of these taken together, suddenly, talking real money, as they say. So that's my concern. Like I said, I appreciate your response. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes. Councilman Estes.
First of all, I want to thank you all for meeting with the surrounding residents. I know it has been referred at previous meetings as voluntary meetings with nearby neighbors, and as far as I'm concerned, they're not voluntary. They are quite necessary. And seeing the response, I think you all can appreciate the importance of those meetings, because you have a lot more support for this project now than you did before those meetings started. And you've also got a much improved development idea. So thank you for that. I hope that will continue if this is approved on Monday. But I also would like to comment a little bit about the lot sizes and widths, which I know seems strange in the Atlanta market to a lot of people. Personally, I grew up in New Orleans, where houses are inches apart. It doesn't seem strange to me, and I now live at Tributary, which has got very small lots for the most part. Those houses are very close together. And I understand some of the concerns about that, but the positive of that is that it fosters a sense of community much greater than houses that are much more spread apart. I think it's a positive thing. And we have no trouble selling our houses there. They sell as soon as the sign goes up. I thank the citizens for coming out yet again. I know from being in your shoes before I joined council that it is tiring to come for 1 or 2 meetings, much less 6 or 7, so thank you all. We do hear you. It's an interesting case in this particular proposal in that there's not usually such an almost even split in support and opposition. Usually, it's very heavily weighted in one direction or the other. So this is going to take a lot of thought. But thank you for expressing your opinions. It helps us. And thank you all. I do hope that if this proceeds, you will continue to meet with the residents and continue to incorporate their suggestions as possible moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Estes. All right, so thank you to the Revived Land Group, Mr. Allison. This ends this part of your project. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. I do apologize. Yes, so let me just, this is it for me. So I will turn this back over to our Mayor Pro Tem for now. Okay, go ahead. Did you have another
any
question?
Other comments and questions there?
Okay, great.
We're going to take a 5-minute break at this point. We'll adjourn the council for 5 minutes. We'll return and pick up. We'll continue with planning and zoning at the end of that. 5 minutes. Recess. Excuse me. Recess. We are back in session, and we will continue under the with the next item under Planning and Development Committee.
Okay.
Madam Chair, please continue.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll ask our staff to come up, please. Mr. Anderson, for the next item.
The next item is hold a public hearing and consider a request for, no, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from PUD, Planned Unit Development District, to PRD, Planned Residential Development for 2.96 acres on Legend Place Road in Land Lot 56, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 6. Application by Scott Johnson, care of Douglasville Health and Athletic Club. Ryan Anderson, zoning administrator, 6701 Church Street. Yesterday evening around 6 p.m., I received an email from the applicant's representative stating he wants to withdraw based on the Planning Commission recommendation and the staff report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We'll go to the next item.
Okay. Consider a request for plat approval for the purpose of combining into one lot for 1.257 acres at 9293 Georgia Highway 5 and Land Lot 160, District 2, Section 5, Parcels 76 and 127. Application by Judy Alley, care of Quick Trip Corporation. Ryan Anderson, zoning administrator, 6701 Church Street. The purpose of this request is for to combine two lots. One of the lots is currently developed with a dilapidated office structure that used to be a dentist's office, and the lot that's adjacent to it for the purpose of facilitating the development of a Quick Trip convenience store. The applicant is here if you have any additional questions.
Okay, great. If the applicant will come down, please. If you will please give your name and your address for the record.
Good evening. Judy Alley, and my address is actually up in Rock Hill, South Carolina, so it's 5143 Norway Lane. I drove down here for you guys.
Thank you. All right.
I don't want to take up any more time, but we want to combine two parcels. We're meeting all of your regulations to combine them. If you guys have any questions.
Sure. Thank you. It's going to be really great to see a Quick Trip on the other side.
Thank you.
And actually, that building, the dentist building, has been there for a while. That was my old dentist a long time ago. Yes. What are you saying, Howard?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of feedback about redevelopment here,
Right.
so we're excited to come.
Absolutely. So I will open the floor for any of our council members that have any comments or questions in regards to this item. Okay. If not, I will open the floor for a public hearing for those that are in favor. I'm sorry. We don't need a public hearing.
No.
No questions or comments? All right, then we will make a decision on Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm probably just going to stay up here. I'm
Yes, ma'am.
right next to you. Oh, got to get the stage to rent.
All right, Mr. Anderson.
The next item is hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to reduce the required 50 feet front yard setback in section 4.08B of the Unified Development Ordinance for a variance of 16 feet for a remaining requirement of 34 feet on the north and south side of a lot. Number 2, a variance to reduce the required 15 feet rear yard principal structure setback in section 4.08B of the Unified Development Ordinance for a variance of 6.5 feet for a remaining requirement of 8.5 feet on the south side of a lot. 3, a variance to reduce the required 10 feet front landscape strip setback in section 8.02E4A of the UDO for a variance of 7 feet for a remaining requirement of 3 feet on the east side of a lot. 4, a variance to reduce the required 10 feet front landscape strip setback in section 8.02E4A of the UDO for a variance of 6 feet for a remaining requirement of 4 feet on the north side of a lot. And 5, a variance to allow parking within the required 10 feet landscape strip in section 8.02E4A of the UDO on the north side of a lot for 1.25 acres at 9293 Georgia Highway 5 and land lot 160, District 2, Section 5, parcels 76 and 127. Application by Julie Alley, care of the Quick Trip Corporation. All these variance requests are for the purpose of facilitating the development of a Quick Trip convenience store. These variances are necessary to allow the proper turn radius for the parking aisles and the gas station and the signs, and staff vetted these and we recommend approval of the variance. The applicant is here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, so now the public hearing. So I'll open the floor for, I'm sorry, do you have any comments prior to, okay, no? All right, so I will.
Yeah, I don't need to go through everything. It's all guys in your packets. If you guys have anything specific, I'm happy to answer it.
Yes, ma'am. So I will open the floor for a public hearing. If there are any individuals here that are in favor of this development, speak now. Okay, if not, are there any citizens or residents, business owners that are here that are in opposition? I see none, so I will close the public hearing and ask, not close, but ask our council members, do you have any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Miller?
And this question may be more for Mr. Anderson, I'm not sure, but could you explain to me a little better exactly why the setback
They
is
have
needed to change?
some challenges due to the unusually small size of the lot. She wanted to do a presentation to go in detail a little bit about it, so it's probably best to let her do a presentation.
Okay.
But they have some challenges. They need to combine 2 lots, and to build their store according to their company specifications, they will need those variances.
So,
Okay.
I'm going to zip right through the site plan so I can walk you through some of the specific reasons. So, number 1, the size and the shape of this lot is very odd. It's very narrow. It's also encumbered by multiple easements and encumbrances from other properties surrounding it by the academy. We're also working with a developer next door on a northern tool. So we've got access agreements, parking agreements. So it's encumbered naturally already itself. And then when we're working through our due diligence process, in order for a Quick Trip to operate safely and have proper circulation around the lots, our drive aisles are above average standards. And I'm trying to get to it right here. Sorry. Technology doesn't really like me very well. So I don't have a pointer, but this is theoretically going to be our layout tying in with the northern tool to my left, to you guys' right. As you can see, the back of our building, we are right at the property line. That drive behind us is a shared access with northern tool. It also has cross connectivity with the academy next door to us. So we cannot, in order to meet our drive aisles through the canopy, the building, and the side, and to operate safely and have appropriate parking standards, average width length of a car, you're talking about 14 feet. That drive aisle right there is 35 feet. That's our minimum that we go to operate safely, so that's why we're asking for the variances.
I would say it concerns me just a little bit because I know the congestion that we seem to get in gas station parking lots. And I know we have a gas station over here on Chapel Hill Road. I believe it's also a Quick Trip that shares the parking lot along with a
Waffle House.
Yep, and then it backs up to a doctor's office. And at times it can be insane actually trying to get in and out of there. And so I will say that's my only concern. I think right now trying to understand how the traffic can safely flow back and forth through there, because then you're also adding in just the traffic congestion that we already have on Highway 5 as it is, and that area from where Highway 5 runs into Rose Avenue to across I-20 is really part of probably the worst part of the congestion through there, I think.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. So we've had preliminary conversations with DOT. With this development, it's actually reducing the amount of drives on Bill Arbor Highway 5. We are removing the Dentist Drive itself and using an existing driveway, and then a shared drive in the back. So we're actually reducing the amount of in and out traffic for this corner with our development, and DOT has been supportive of it.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Any other questions? Okay, then we
Thank
will
you.
take this up on Monday.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Anderson, let's keep rocking and rolling.
Racetrack's gonna be thrilled to death.
The next item is hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to eliminate the screening requirements in section 6.059B of the UDO, and a variance to eliminate the building design requirements in section 6.05 of the UDO for 160 acres and land lot 166, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 10. Application by Michael Trader, care of the Microsoft Corporation. These variances are for the benefit of facilitating the development of a data center. These variance requests are functional. They're functional and are required for a data center. One of the requirements is that one of the reasons is that the UDO prohibits metal as a primary building material, and so they need the variance to be able to use metal in their building construction. And the screening variance is basically for properties that are adjacent to residential districts, and you won't be able to see the data center from the road due to the elevation and other topo issues. So after we reviewed this application, we recommended approval. And the applicant is here to give a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Would the applicant please come down to our podium and microphone? Thank you. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Trader, 1 Microsoft Way, Redmond, California. I brought my architect, Lee Percy, with Morrison Hirschfield to give a presentation on the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Trigger.
Good
Yes, sir. If
evening.
you'll give your name and address for the record.
My name is Lee Percy. I'm at 1648 Fernleaf Circle, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an architect with Morrison Hirschfield. We represent the design team. I'm having trouble with the remote here. We have a design presentation, and so we appreciate your time. I'll make sure that I have this thing working correctly.
Let's make sure it's working for you.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. So this is River Road, which is east of Douglas, where we are right now in Douglasville. And the plot is part of a development that is called River Road, Riverside West. And the property that's being developed is a combination of 2 plats shown here on the screen. This aerial view is illustrative because it shows in the upper left-hand corner of the photograph, it shows the plat that we're developing for Microsoft to build a data center. In the lower right-hand corner, you see existing buildings that are very similar construction, and the intended use for our project is allowable by zoning. So we're seeking variance on screening, as Mr. Anderson said, and architectural elements. So our building, and I'll show you some renderings of our proposed building, and you'll see that it's very much in character with the rest of the development. The lower part of this image shows the data center that we're proposing, taking up a smaller portion of the site on the southern edge. It's next to a transmission line, Georgia Power transmission line. And then part of the project includes building a substation Along the right-hand side of the screen, on the right-hand side of the substation, you'll see the main entrance, which is a secure entrance to the property. The distance between our building, which is labeled FTYL1 in blue and pink on the left-hand side, from the roadway is approximately 1,000 feet. And the change in elevation is about 30 feet. The building is up on a hill about 30 feet from the roadway. We are complying with regulations to provide landscaping along the roadway. So there will be trees planted along the roadway. And so these slides talk a little bit about the information that's already provided in the agenda about the screening and the variance. There's a building section here that shows a little bit of the grade change, but I'm going to move on to the renderings of the project. As you can see in this rendering, the roadway that you see in front of the building is the private drive. It's behind the security guard and is part of the property that Microsoft is developing. The substation, the power substation, is on the left-hand side of the image there, and then the public way is further to the left. We are proposing a composite metal panel skin for this building, which is combined metal skin with a stucco type finish on it that has insulation, rigid insulation as part of it. It's sandwich panel, so that it's not the same kind of thing that you might see at an auto repair shop that has oil canning and has ripples to it and is rather cheap construction. It's very durable construction, and Microsoft uses it around the country because it does stand up to inclement weather and storms and that kind of thing. This is another rendering of the project. As you can see, it's very much in keeping with the rest of the development in that area, which is distribution centers, although it has much less traffic than a distribution center. But the screening would be, the request for screening would be from the fence that's next to the building. Let me just see if there's a better image. Oh, that's the best image. So we feel like this building, because it is about 1,000 feet back from the right-of-way, would not be viewed from the public right-of-way, and the architectural and the screening requirements would not necessarily be required for this to be a good project for the city.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Do we have any questions or comments from our Mayor Pro Tem or other council members? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
So this is not a warehouse, it's really a light industrial facility is basically what this would be classified as. And I understand from looking at your materials that facade issues really can't be a concern because you need louvers along most of the facade. What am I looking at when I look at the rendering? They look like trucks parked along parallel to it. What are those? Are those cooling units, or what am I looking at?
Those are engine generators.
Okay.
For the power supply.
I'm sorry, what was
for the power for the building, and there are some other elements related to cooling that's in that mechanical yard as well.
And you mentioned it's about 1,000 feet off of River Road, and I guess the question I would have, and maybe you can't answer this, is you don't control the property between Riverside Drive and your property? That's in other. You know who? I'd have to ask for the.
It's a little different, Neil. I mean, some of them has been developed.
For a while.
Again, my concern is what I'm getting at is it the trees that are blocking the view between the main highway and your facility, or is it other buildings? Because you mentioned, and you mentioned there's a height differential as well.
Correct. There's a 30-foot height differential.
I guess what I'm getting at is, if you don't control the property between the road and your site, so is it possible that down the road that those trees could be removed by other developers, and we will be looking at your building as, something that, this monument as you go as you're going down Riverside Drive.
Our property line does go all the way down to River Road. So the orange box on the screen there is a power substation to bring power to the site.
Do you have a rendering of that in there? I'm not sure if I saw that. The power substation.
It's shown partially in this image.
Black and white.
In the lower left-hand.
And that's going to be, that's a little bit, that actually is between your building and the main road.
That's correct.
It's probably slightly less attractive. Like I said, my concern, and I guess I'd have to go down there and just kind of drive it and look at that, see what the view is.
I am, of course, very familiar with this area. It is very difficult to see this parcel from Riverside Parkway. I mean, if you got out of your car and stood on the top of the car, you might be able to see back in there, but it.
Okay. Yeah, that's my biggest concern is, like I said, if you don't control the property, it's the Disney effect. The reason Disney designed Disney World, because it's so huge, they bought acres and acres around it so that you would contain the view from inside and from out.
Right.
And so, I don't know how much property you have around
Unfortunately, Microsoft came after those other parcels were developed.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Do we have any other questions or comments? If not, we will take this up on Monday for a vote. All right? All right, Mr. Anderson.
Okay. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Microsoft Data Center for FTY01 for 160 acres at 1601 North River Road, located in land lot 166, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 10, for plans dated September 13, 2021. Application by Michael Trader, care of Microsoft Corporation. The applicant is seeking development of a non-residential project per City of Douglasville, UDO Section 10.07 for property located at 1601 North River Road. The proposal currently depicts a proposed data center with 58 parking spaces. The proposed development will consist of approximately 244,865 square feet of new construction. Development will be situated on a vacant lot, and due to the topography and large size of the subject property and where the proposed building would be situated on the lot, the proposed data center would not be visible from the public view on North River Road. The proposed data center is located within a light industrial district. The applicant's proposed building would be comprised mostly of metal wall paneling and corrugated metal wall paneling. Additional materials include storefront glazing, concrete. The applicant has received administrative variance approval for the height of the light post, Section 8.03C1, grants staff administrative authority to do so, from the required height from 20 feet to 30 feet, and an alternative parking plan administrative variance, Section 8.01D1, reduction from the required 245 parking spaces to 58 parking spaces. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Okay, yes, sir, it's a trigger.
Michael Trader, Microsoft, 1 Microsoft Way, Redmond, California. I'll turn it over to my architect.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trigger.
I don't have an additional
Right.
presentation, so
Yes,
I'm
sir.
prepared to answer questions.
All right, thank you. Any additional, yes, Councilman Watts?
I just was wondering, square footage on the,
What is it? 245,000.
245,000. Okay,
okay, thank you. That's
all you have?
Yes.
Anyone else? That's it?
Just quickly, I know this is irrelevant to your presentation. I'm just curious, how many folks are you going to have employed?
There will be a maximum of 72 people on site at a maximum.
Okay. I thought these places ran themselves.
Really?
Our robot
If everything
overlords.
goes well.
Probably can.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
One day in the future, soon.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir?
Just along the lines of employment, when Microsoft builds this type of facility and has that many employees, the employees come, a majority of them, do they come from the area where you're locating, or do they come from somewhere else within the organization, or just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I might let Mike answer that.
Yeah, great question. So typically, we might bring over 2 or 3 subject matter experts, and then we will hire local. So there'll be a couple people who are familiar with how to run Microsoft data centers, and then we pretty much open up local recs in the area, and people go online to Microsoft and apply. I'm actually a resident of Marietta, Georgia, and I started with Microsoft probably about eight months ago. So they just opened a rec in Georgia looking for a principal program manager to manage a project. So I'm
Just out of curiosity, I was just wondering about the salary range for the employees that we're talking about locally. You may not have that information right now.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm just
Microsoft is a
curious.
tech company, so I don't know if you're familiar with how tech companies pay. They have pretty decent salaries
Yeah,
and awesome
yeah.
benefits. So I don't think you'll be starving if you work for Microsoft.
Yeah, I like for our community to hear this is the type of projects that we're entertaining and, you know.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, thank you,
Mayor
Madam
Pro
Chair.
Tem.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. Also, I just want to say, the community is very appreciative of you guys choosing Douglasville for the location of the data center. It's a very exciting time, and it is my understanding now, along with a few other local facilities, that Douglasville will now control a substantial portion of the cloud. And we're still trying to work on how to promote that, whether it's Cloud Alley or Cloud Village or something. We need some good catchy slogan, like Silicon Valley. I mean, seriously, we now will have a substantial portion of the cloud located in Douglasville, and that's kind of a big deal.
In Ward 5, no less.
I'm sorry?
In Ward 5, no less.
So we need to come up with you've got some great minds out there. If you want to get them working on it, we'd love to hear what you can come up with to promote Douglasville as the center of the cloud in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for your presentation, and we will take this up on Monday. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Well, Mayor Pro Tem and our other council members and staff, Mr. Anderson, you did very well. Does we have one more? Two more. How did I miss it? Oh, wow, I'm going too fast.
You're not off the
I'm not off the hook yet. Put my glasses back on. I do see them. I apologize. Thank
All right.
you.
Two more.
Okay.
The
I
next
see it.
item
Yes.
is consider request for approval of a development plan for Members First Credit Union for 1.13 acres at 3024 Chapel Hill Road, located in land lot 47, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 219, for plans dated October the 6th, 2021. Application by Cody Rogers, P.E., care of Eclipse Brand Builders, LLC. The applicant for Members First Credit Union seeks a development plan approval of a non-residential project per City of Douglasville, UDO Section 10.07, for property located at 3024 Chapel Hill Road in land lot 47, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 219. The proposal currently depicts a proposed credit union. The proposed development will consist of a one-story structure totaling 4,100 square feet of new construction on a lot totaling 1.13 acres with 34 parking spaces. The applicant's proposed building will be comprised of 50% ephes, 30% glass, and 20% stone. City staff has reviewed the application and attachment and has determined that the proposed plans meet development requirements of the UDO. Staff recommends approval of this development plan.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. The applicant is here? Yes. Okay. He's been very patient. Come on down. It's your turn. Thank you. If you'll be so kind and state your name and address for the record, please.
Cody Rogers, EMC Engineering, 1211 Merchant Way, Suite 201, Statesboro, Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers, for your patience.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to make some comments in regards to this development?
Sure. This development is actually part of a master plan. The shops at Chapel Hill, I believe, developed around 2005 or was designed around 2005. This site in particular was actually always planned or planned at that time to be a bank or credit union, so we're not changing the use. We're just following the master plan. There's a regional detention pond to the northeast of our site that serves this property, so detention is handled there. Utility-wise, we really aren't we are not proposing much in lieu of that, except for some laterals and your normal connections.
Okay. The rendering is very nice. Actually, the location is in a really nice location as well. You're going to get all those that are eating, and for those of us that get our nails done and hit the gym, may become a member. So it's awesome. Do we have any comments from our mayor Pro Tem, our council members?
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem?
Madam Chair, yeah, just so people are oriented to understand where this is located.
Yes.
It's sort of what catty-corner in front of LA Fitness, next to BioLife, and then what's the, not Jersey Mike's, what's the restaurant?
It is.
Is it Jersey
Mike's? Jason's Deli.
Jason's Deli, excuse me, my apologies to Jason's Deli. So you're adjacent to Jason's Deli, BioLife, and LA Fitness.
Actually, directly between Jason's Deli and
And
BioLife,
LA.
and then you have the adjacent planet,
LA
LA
Fitness,
Fitness.
right.
Want people to understand where that's situated on that site. So, sure,
Right.
thank you. That's all, Madam.
Okay, great. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councilman Watts?
So, Madam Vice Chair, you're saying that I could get a workout, get my nails done, and then make a withdrawal?
Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure about nails, but you may want
And
to get a
donate some
pedicure.
plasma, too.
Hey, seriously, though, I did have one question you may or may not be able to answer. The Members First is presently on
Douglas Boulevard?
Douglas Boulevard. Will that close, and this one will take its place, or will there be two in Douglas County?
I can't tell you for sure, but I would err on the side of there's not going to be any closings. I think this is meant to open in the same time,
Okay.
or both of them be open at the same time.
Well, I've been a member since 1980, so anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. That makes it even better, right? Any other comments or questions? Thank you again for your patience, and we'll take this up on Monday if you'll be here at 6.
All right, thank you all.
All right, thank you. Last item.
Consider request for revised final plat approval for tributary at New Manchester for the purpose of revising lot lines for .478 acres at 9107 Hanover Street and land lots 176 and 179, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 19. Application by Bruce Rippin of DR Horton Homes Incorporated. Ryan Anderson, Zone Administrator, 6701 Church Street. The applicant, Bruce Rippin, is requesting final plat approval for the purpose of revising the lot line for 2 lots. This is a revised final plat for the tributary community off Riverside Parkway. The existing homeowner of Lot 229 has a fence and landscape wall built over the original lot line. And since DR Horton is now intending to build a home on Lot 229, is working with the existing homeowner to accommodate their fence by adjusting the lot line and including a private maintenance easement so that the wall can be maintained. That's it. The applicant is here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. If the applicant will come forward, and please be so kind to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Sonia Linton. I'm actually with LaCroix Engineering. I'm a representative for Bruce Rippin, DR Horton. My address is 3475 Corporate Way, Suite A, Duluth, Georgia, 30096.
Thank you.
There's nothing much more I can say to what Mr. Anderson said. It's just a lot revisement to a final plat that already exists. The homeowner is willing to work with DR Horton to do the best possible thing with the maintenance easement.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your patience during this time.
Thank you.
So I will start to my right with Councilmember Estes. This is in your ward.
Yes, in my neighborhood. It makes perfect sense to me. This seems to be a very easy solution to the issue.
Thank you. Any other comments from our council? No? Thank you so much. We will take this up on Monday for a vote. Thank you and be safe. Well, Mr. Anderson, thank you. Officially, we are finished with planning and zoning. Mayor Pro Tem, I gladly turn this back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You must be exhausted.
I'm okay.
Moving right along to the next item, which is, the next committee is Public Improvement and Beautification Committee, and that is chaired by Councilwoman Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business this evening in Public Improvement and Beautification.
Thank you, Councilwoman Miller. Our next committee is the Public Relations Committee, chaired by Councilman Howard Estes.
And Public Relations as well has no business this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Next committee is the Public Safety Committee, and our vice chair will handle that. That's Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight under public safety.
We're on a roll. Thank you, Councilman Watts. Our next item is Recreation, Cultural, and Tourism Committee, and that is also Councilman Watts.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have one item, appoint Chris Bass to the Douglasville Convention and Visitors Bureau Advisory Board at-large post for a 2-year term expiring December 31st, 2023, and Ms. Jackson will handle this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street. If you all recall the previous at-large post, it was served in the capacity by our previous Parks and Recreation Director. Since Mr. Bass is the new director, he will serve in this position for 2 years for a term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Thank you. And did Mr. Bass know this going in when he put in his?
He was voluntold.
Anyway, any comments or, I mean, he's the guy. I'm glad he didn't come here tonight. He had to sit through this whole meeting just to get to this one point. If there are no questions, would it be all right to place this on the consent agenda for Monday? Thank you. And that's all we have tonight under Parks, Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Thank you, Councilman Watts. Our next committee is the Technology Committee, and I will turn that over to the Vice Chair, Councilman Estes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Technology Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, Councilman. And our last committee tonight is the Transportation Committee. Councilwoman Dr. Michelle Nardani.
No business, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to come before City Council that any of the members would like to bring forth at this time? Okay. We will then move on to updates from city staff. City Attorney, Mr. Dodson, do you have anything for us?
No business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson. Staff Attorney Lynn Woodward, do you have
No
anything for
business,
us?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. Chief of Police, Chief Sparks, do you have anything for us tonight?
No business, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Chief. City Manager, Ms. Hampton, do you have anything for us?
Only thing that I have to add is that you do not have any items on your committee meetings for Monday, so you will start at 6 p.m.
It's becoming a regular thing.
Let's hope so.
We've gotten so much done, we've got it all out of the way. Is that it? All right. Thank you very much, City Manager. At this point, we open the floor for comments from citizens and delegates. Anyone in the audience who may be left here, is hiding underneath the seat, who'd like to say anything? It does not look as such. So, that being said, this meeting is now adjourned.